Welcome back to another Drawing in the Dark. My name is Levi Smith. I tattoo and draw for a living. And today we're going to be working on this piece I've called Death's Embrace. So I'm just going to be drawing a couple of skulls here at a few different angles using the Rodgon method here for the building of the skull structure. And from there, I'm just going to draw it up. Okay, so as usual, I am drawing here with a Bic pen. As I demonstrated at the very beginning of this video, I've got a little undersheet here with a grid that kind of helps me keep the drawing within a certain area for these particular purposes. This is just on a sheet of just basic standard computer paper. For some reason, I decided to stop drawing some of these in my sketchbook, but for the next videos, I'll be back in the sketchbook. It's just cooler that way for sure. But with these guys here, I work through fairly quickly in the general structure of these skulls, and I just really want to quickly get to the point where I'm hatching and shading and detailing these guys. It's been a little while since I made one of these videos, so I am trying a few different things and trying to get back onto the old proverbial horse, as it were, or bandwagon, I guess. Take your pick on the metaphors. One of the things I did want to talk about in the videos, aside from the fact that in making the videos, I really do want to have something that I actually am talking about and stuff, so I'm going to try to keep doing that. I don't necessarily want to do the no audio, no voiceover kind of videos. So that's what we're going to do. Also, I have some new music here. This is some older stuff made by a couple of buddies of mine back in my Vegas days. This is from the group called Bass Eclectics by Aaron Ross and Wade Ross. I'm using in this particular video a song called Mo Song. So today I wanted to talk about motivation, especially because it's been a thing that I have been, in some facets of my work, been struggling with. I do a lot of different stuff. I've got my tattoo work, my custom tattoo design. I'm working on a comic book. I've been doing some flash design work also for my tattoo studio. Try to get a little bit more work in these days. And also I post on my Patreon and stuff. I generally keep a lot of these things handled fairly well. I mean, it is always a juggle. And making these videos and doing these little side drawings where I record them and stuff has been one of those things, though, that's been really difficult lately, especially this past year, to work back into my work routines. So I did want to talk a bit about motivation and some strategies and stuff, not just the platitudes of how to work through creative blocks or powering through points of low motivation. Motivation is a really, really important factor, I think. And part of it too is having some basic ambition for the task at hand. And so you don't have to have the level of ambition like, oh, I'm going to take over, I'm going to be amazing. But just at least that level of ambition of, I want to complete what I'm starting. I want to finish the job, as it were. And so along with that and that desire, I mean, if it's something that you're having trouble kind of working on, sometimes it might be better just to understand that it's time to abandon a project and move on, especially if it's something that you've been struggling with and just really just cannot get past. Move on, or take a big break. Put some distance on it, lower its priority, lower the pressure, and then see if you really want to get back to it once you get yourself back to, say, like a mental baseline. But for general motivation, there's a lot of different factors in the modern world and stuff. There's a lot of different pressures, the state of the world being good or bad or particularly dramatic or distracting. And then there's the state of, the broader world, but then there's the state of the smaller world, your actual direct individual experience and paradigm. And what your mental health is, where you feel like you are in life and are supposed to be in life, how things are going with, your normal job that you likely have, finances, your time availability and pressures, whether or not you have kids or not, whether or not you have a lot of control in the environment that you live in, as far as being able to have a good quiet time or a good regular space to develop routines. All of that stuff can be really, really impactful in that aggregate of self-motivation, especially fear. Fear can really kill a lot of motivation, especially when we're kind of all living in this highlight reel social media. You're inundated, especially if you're at all like me, so you follow a lot of art channels, art pages, art groups, in a variety of social media platforms, where you're constantly seeing amazing work, people producing at regular intervals and stuff that make you feel like you're either lazy or falling behind or somehow not using your time well enough. A lot of that comparative kind of judgment that we are subjecting ourselves to with a lot of social media and stuff can be a major detrimental factor. Like, oh, it's not going to be as good as that other person's stuff I saw, or it's so derivative, or it's the same old. You'd be surprised how much people will interact with stuff that you might think is overplayed, cliche, or any other kind of factors and stuff that your fear might be telling you about why you shouldn't draw, shouldn't paint, shouldn't create, or even post. So those are things that you need to work through. And a couple of rules of thumb that I really follow along with and keep to is part of it is the people that matter are the ones that are going to like it, and the ones that don't like it, that don't engage or engage in a negative way, they're really not worth your time to even worry about, whether or not they're there or not. It's your progress, your process, and reaching out to the people that you connect to. There's tons and tons of people out there that you're going to be able to connect to at all kinds of different levels. And it's just, there's a question that's often asked online, especially with creatives, of like, well, how do I find my audience? And honestly, I think that it's not how we find our audience, but making sure that our audience has a chance to find us. Your fans, your followers, your supporters as a creative are really going to be choosing you. I mean, that's really part of this process. Nobody's forcing me to follow along with a channel that I really enjoy, or be influenced and impressed by various creators and stuff that I look up to. That's really my choice. And so remember that everybody else that's out there is also has that kind of agency and are making those kinds of choices, because that can be really important. But moving on back to motivation specifically, I do have some tips for getting started, because getting started is one of the hardest parts. Sitting down, looking at a blank canvas, looking at a blank screen, looking at a blank sheet of paper, looking at a blank comic board, whatever it is, it can be daunting. And a lot of that has to do with the infinite potential that exists within the blank canvas. And the moment you do something, that infinite potential is like shattered. Now it can't be anything, it has to be something. And then getting past that, and one of the things I will often do is I'll often just scribble on my sheet of paper real quick to just kind of like ruin it in a way. And then that lowers the pressure. That lowers the priority level of like that this has to be great. It's already ruined from the beginning, so it makes it easier to just kind of relax and just kind of play around with it, And one of the things that I really find important, and I still do to this day, are confidence drawings. And that is at the beginning of the day or at the beginning of your drawing session, do something simple, something that's really easy for you to do, something that you know that you can do, something that's fast, something that you can do like 3 or 4 times in a row successfully. And at least in the context of drawing, these little confidence drawings, like little flowers, or what I use is skulls. Some people draw like all kinds of different stuff. Do the little skater, Stussy S or whatever. And doing those things actually is a success for your brain and will start to help build up some actual momentum. Convincing yourself, okay, well, I can draw my basic little duck that I draw every time, or a little skull or whatever, little light bulb or something. And then I'll draw a few of those, and then I'll draw something a little bit more complex or something, And then from there, now I basically already kind of like told my brain today, okay, we can draw. Things are working between the hand and the head today. I'm making, pictures in an intentional way, they're turning out the way that I'm expecting and needing them to turn out. Then I'm a little bit more prepared to move on to something that has a bit of a higher priority. And working up in priority or pressure level, depending on how much work that you have, can be really important too. So if you do have a bigger project or something that, say, like a family member or a client has commissioned you for, something that's a big deal, it's going to matter a lot. A lot of people are going to see it. It's going to make some impressions, positive or negative. It's better to work into that sort of thing than just trying to go directly to it. So doing confidence drawings, doing some other side sketches and stuff, noodling around with a few things, deliberately and directionally, so that you're working towards getting to working on the bigger high priority stuff, will help you ease into that larger project so that you're not going into the project cold from day to day. And that can be very, very important, because if you just start the day off trying to do things that are complex, things that you're not comfortable with, things that are major challenges for you, then as you struggle with those, as is natural, you're going to convince yourself early on that things aren't working today. Oh, my hand isn't listening to me today. Oh, the connection's off. I'm not feeling it. It's just not flowing out, kind of thing. I can't get to my flow state. And a lot of that is because you're really just trying to go straight into a sprint off the couch, when you need to, you got to do some stretches. You got to work your way up. There's a process from getting from the couch to getting to the starting line of a marathon. So even before you're starting that big race, you gotta stretch, you gotta warm up, you gotta do some jogs and stuff. It's something that takes a little while to get into. And also working out a basic routine, having a specific place that you can sit down and draw, having a specific time as best as you can that you can sit down and do your creative work. And at first, if you really have a hard time sitting for a while, set a timer and just sit there for 5 minutes and just noodle around and see how much you can get done in 5 minutes, and then see how much you want to keep going after 5 minutes. And once that 5 minute mark is kind of become like a foregone conclusion, like it's no problem that you can knock that out, stretch yourself out to 10 minutes to 30 minutes, set a timer, sit and work uninterrupted, play a little bit of music or a really familiar kind of TV show or something in the background, nothing that's going to distract you, but that's going to at least feed that other part of your brain that wants other input and stuff. If you're at least like me, I got to listen to some music or a podcast or old TV shows, mostly like Star Trek and stuff like that, that I can play in the background that I've seen 100 times, that I'm not going to constantly be looking at the screen. Partly that also keeps me off my screen, and gives me that kind of like extra input while I'm drawing and stuff. Just just to help keep me in the chair for a while. But as you progress through and expand that sitting period to about an hour, and then every hour take a little bit of a break. Get up, walk around, look at something else, go outside. Take those moments, every hour to look at your phone real quick. But try to keep it down to like a 5-10 minute kind of time period, and then try to get back into your drawing schedule and your routine so that you can make the best use of that time that you've set aside. Partly though is if you have that time and you have that place and you just sit there and like nothing happens, then sit there and not do anything else. Like give yourself a rule. Okay, I got to sit here for X amount of time every day at this time of day, and if I'm not feeling it, if I'm not doing it, just doodle, just noodle around or something. But make sure that anything that you are doing is directly related to that creative task that you're trying to do, so that you can kind of train your brain into doing the thing. And each day you sit down, or each week that you sit down for that time period for your routine, it'll get easier and easier. You'll get a little bit faster and getting into the groove, getting into that flow. And then next thing you know, that'll be a thing that if you're not in that time, in that place, you feel the itch. You get a little antsy, you start getting anxious and stuff like, hey, I've really got to be, I've really got to go be, doing my creative work. I've really got to go be drawing. I've really got to go be painting right now. I've really got to go be, making videos or whatever it is. And then that will help kind of train your brain in a very specific way and stuff that makes it just easier and easier to sit down, get to work. And that has a lot to do, those routines have a lot to do with maintaining motivation and building up momentum. And that way it's so much easier to sit down each day or each week and get that work in, get that little chunk, that little nugget. Because a mountain isn't climbed, all at once. You got to take it a step at a time. So realize the mountain you're climbing is a step at a time. So every day allow yourself to just take a couple of steps. If one step is all you get today, that's great. That's more than zero. If you manage to do 10, 15 steps today, then amazing, awesome. And then you can track that. And as it gets more comfortable, you can cover more distance, you can get more done. And then next thing you know, motivation stops being so much of a concern, as in it changes to how am I going to get more done in this amount of time, or how do I get myself more time to do this? And that's that's the process. At least it has been for me over the long years and stuff. And it goes up and down, and you have times where you just got to take your distance, you got to slow down. There are other times when you've got to bear down on it and try to push through. It depends on how much of your livelihood or your mental health depends on your creative work. I know for me, it's an art therapy thing as much as it is a career thing and stuff. So it just ends up having to be something that you've got to work through with focus and discipline and routine. And it's totally possible, even in this day and age, with all of the distractions that we end up having around us. A lot of that is just choosing. I mean, hey, you spend 2 hours doom scrolling, you might as well spend 2 hours drawing or painting or making music. So anyway, that's pretty much all I've got for this. It looks like it wasn't too hard for me to go on here for just about 20 minutes or so and fill up the space. I think that this is going to work out nicely for me. If you like this video, please drop me a like, give it a sub. Check out my Patreon, patreon.com/mopandbucket. I do a lot of stuff. I post at least weekly there, and I give a lot of my sketches, progress art, and even talk a little bit about the general struggle of at least my artistic journey. So thanks for stopping by. I hope to see you in the next one, and we will catch you later.